meet today during a time of crisis for our city, for the nation, and indeed for the rest of the world, in view of the outbreak of the novel COVID-19 pandemic, which has not spared even us here as the city of Bulawayo. We are aware, ladies and gentlemen, that most of the countries of the world have gone into complete lockdown. In Europe, the Americas, Asia, everywhere. And even our neighbors in South Africa have now declared a 21-day lockdown up to the 16th of April to monitor the spread and how to the spread of this disease. We are aware that the World Health Organization has declared COVID-19 as a pandemic, and the declaration by the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe as a national disaster. The City of Bulawayo has come up with the following preventive measures after its special council meeting yesterday to try and mitigate the effects of this pandemic. One, suspension of weekend flea markets, Kotama activities with immediate effect. The city recognizes that while the weekend flea markets provide a source of revenue for the city's informal traders, they also congregate large numbers of people, increasing the vulnerability of residents spreading coronavirus to Bulawayo. At the present moment, the city of Bulawayo may not have a case, but prevention is always better than cure. So we have decided to take this painful step to suspend all weekend flea markets in the city. Two, with regards to our cemeteries, the city has made a decision to limit the number of mourners at a cemetery to a minimum number of 30 people per family. The backfilling of graves will now be done by the municipal staff and not by members of the public. And number three, as per Government of Zimbabwe proclamation, the city reiterates that there be limitations of attendees at gatherings such as churches, funerals, weddings, and meetings to less than 50 people. We discourage gathering and appeal to residents to minimize congregating. Number four, shops are now required to make limitations to the number of customers inside a shop at any given time in order to observe social distancing, and they are now required to make provision for sanitation facilities at each entry point. Five, the city will be working with the informal traders for the reduction of vending stores at the markets such as Fifth Avenue in line with the social distancing recommendations of at least 1 meter apart. Six, the City of Bulawayo is further engaging the transport industry to reduce their fleet and number of passengers per given time, and also to provide sanitation equipment in all their vehicles and offices and display preventive measures. Number seven, Bulawayo City Council will be scaling up health and hygiene education programs to all stakeholders, which include informal traders, travelers, shop operators, and transporters. Ella will go around sharing health messages for the public as to empower and encourage the community of Bulawayo with information necessary for the protection against this COVID-19 pandemic, which has taken root in the world. Further to that, a workplace response plan has been developed in view of the national and global development on the disease. Council employees, graduates, interns, and students on attachment are at risk of contracting the disease. Hence, the following measures have been put in place to protect them from the exposure. You are aware that government has promulgated Statutory Instrument 77 of 2020, the Public Health COVID-19 Prevention Containment and Treatment Regulations 2020, as well as the possibility of the country degenerating into level 3 COVID-19 disaster with full lockdown. The following measures have been put in place to protect the council employees. And taking into consideration that we are currently a partial lockdown, the following measures have been put in place with regards to our employees. Number one, we will continue to train municipal staff on COVID-19 preparedness, prevention, and mitigation. Number two, council is promoting distribution of hand sanitizers to all council staff, including contract workers, graduate interns, and students on attachment and placement of hand sanitizers at all entrances of our premises, reception areas, and also ensuring that all visitors to our premises sanitize their hands before being attended to by staff. Number three, council is also reducing the number of meetings and ensuring that the maintenance of 1 meter social distance in all meeting venues and that the venues are well ventilated and window open. Number four, pregnant female members of staff are at high risk of such a pandemic and have been encouraged to take vacation leave prior to their maternity leave. Number five, keeping in line with social distancing, office arrangements have been reassessed and redesigned to provide for isolation rooms per department, e.g., for example, a tower block, revenue, and the city hall. Those measures will be put in place and are being put in place. Number six, any staff member who is not feeling well with flu-like symptoms should not report to work. They shall report their illness to their supervisor as per council procedures. Number seven, council will adhere to all restrictions as outlined in the COVID-19 national disaster announcement. Number eight, decongestion of the workplace to prevent exposure is underway. This shall be achieved through voluntary leave by those staff members with sufficient leave days. The employees will apply for leave as per normal council procedures. Council departments will also implement staff rotation to limit the number of people in the workplace at any given time. Number nine, to protect and prevent possible infections, we are encouraging members of the public to use alternative means of communication to access municipal services. For example, the use of emails, phone calls, the online payment platforms to contact the municipal staff. There's no need for residents to visit the revenue or to visit our housing offices to make payments, bill payments. They must utilize all e-payment systems. And the State of Bulawayo would like to advise members of the public that should we obtain a scenario of a full country lockdown, the following measures will be implemented. In any case, as a city, we believe that while we are guided by the government's partial lockdown measures, we believe that taking a cue from our neighbors like South Africa, we have imposed a 21-day lockdown. We believe that in the interest of mitigating and preventing this pandemic, it was in the best interest of the country, not only Zimbabwe, but the SADC region itself, that this be a SADC lockdown and extend to an African continental lockdown so that the Center for Disease Control, the Africa Center for Disease Control, can now monitor this, this pandemic until maybe by the end of April, so that we are sure that we have completely dealt with this pandemic. But nonetheless, at the present moment, we are still guided by the government position on this disease. But we'll continue to plead with the government to consider a lockdown in view of what our regional neighbors are doing. But should we reach that stage of a full country lockdown, the following measures will be implemented. One, essential services will remain in place using skeletal staff. Two, majority of staff members will not be required to report for duty. Number three, council shall remain guided by the presidential announcement and related statutory instrument throughout the duration of the COVID-19 national disaster. I now proceed to matters that maybe could have drawn the rebuke of our residents, and we must, as a city, apologize to our residents, stakeholders, for the water situation that is obtaining in the city. And it's unfortunate that this situation is occurring at a time when we are trying to mitigate the effects of this COVID-19 disaster, where we are encouraging our residents to practice hygiene by continuously washing their hands with water, and it goes without saying that water therefore becomes an essential integral part of our fight against this COVID-19. But we want media houses and stakeholders, our residents, just to be aware of what the city is doing and what is happening and what is the cause of that erratic supply of water to our residents. Ladies and gentlemen, the city of Bulawayo dam statistics as of Thursday, this is today, stand at 32.99%, which places the city in a precarious position in terms of water supply. The city of Bulawayo is currently implementing the Bulawayo Water and Sewerage Services Improvement Project, BSWIP, with support from our partners, the African Development Bank and the government of Zimbabwe. The BSWIP project is an ongoing project which is anticipated to end in December 2020. Currently, we have numerous ongoing projects, and the major ones being the replacement of pumps at Ngema and Fenway pump stations, the rehabilitation of Praetorian waterworks, the rehabilitation of southern areas sewer treatment works, SAST, water mains renewal, which also includes meter replacement, and rehabilitation of sewers at Cowdrey Park and other western areas. All these major projects have committed timelines contractually, which as council we are obliged to adhere to so as to secure the AFDB Bank's trust to unlock future funding. The city's ability to attract additional funding under this program and other programs to come depends, therefore, on how we perform on the current project. The works that have just been completed were planned in 2016, that is 4 years ago, prior to the coronavirus outbreak. The city of Bulawayo would also like to further advise members of the public that these works are necessary to prevent the collapse of the system. Further to that, Bulawayo has applied itself and all issues were considered, COVID-19 included in its programming. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we owe it to ourselves to prevent this disease, as well as also ensure that our water infrastructure remains sound. So there are times that we need to take the pain for the better good of the city. And I wish you all the best in fighting this pandemic. I thank you.